Alright, people, let's talk Blue Beetle because this is a movie I have been so incredibly excited for. I mean, growing up, Blue Beetle was one of my favorite DC characters. I was introduced to Jaime Reyes in Batman the Brave and the Bold, one of my favorite cartoons growing up. Also, of course, in Young Justice, alongside Justice League Action, and he did also make an appearance as a part of the Teen Titans in the DC animated movie universe, in movies like Justice League versus Teen Titans and Teen Titans: The Judas Contract. So Jaime Reyes and Blue Beetle are a character that I have always loved. I've always loved this character, and I've always wanted to see this character done in live action. Eventually, I did because I watched Smallville, so I saw that version, which wasn't the greatest, but I still love that show. But Blue Beetle finally got his big screen debut with this movie, which was really exciting. Remember when they first announced it? I was just so incredibly hyped for this film. I was like, oh my God, they're finally doing Blue Beetle. And of course, back then, it was originally going to be an HBO Max movie, which is kind of insane to look back on that now that was like an actual thing that DC was doing. Like, oh, Blue Beetle and Batgirl and Wonder Twins and all those movies that were going to HBO Max. And this is the only one that actually ended up coming to fruition. And we got it. We got it here in theaters today. Of course, in the middle of the actors' strike, so there's not a whole lot of promotion going on for the film. But of course, the Blue Beetle Battalion is going strong. The movie, not so much the box office, but hopefully, things will get better in the second weekend. Maybe we'll see. But I love this movie. I really, really enjoyed it. It was everything I wanted it to be and more. And this is, of course, my non-spoiler review. So, of course, if you haven't seen the movie yet, do not worry. There's going to be no spoilers in this video. But I'll let you know my thoughts on the film. And along with, what to expect with, post-credit scenes and how many there are and all that stuff. So stay tuned. But Blue Beetle, again, I really thoroughly enjoyed this movie. It's a solid 8 out of 10 for me. And one of the interesting things about DC, I was talking about this with my friend who I went to see it with, is how, DC is putting out movies that are better than Marvel right now, but for some reason Marvel is making more money than DC is. I think just the general public just automatically thinks that DC movies are bad because of having so many duds in a row. And that's why every movie this year from DC has just completely bombed. I mean, The Flash did terribly, Shazam did terribly, and Blue Beetle, it's off to a not so great start. But again, hopefully that can change. But DC, I've really been enjoying their movies, and Blue Beetle is, I think, my favorite of the year so far. I still haven't seen Shazam 2. I saw The Flash, of course. You can check my review for that. But I do think I like the Blue Beetle movie even more. And one of the biggest reasons for that is Charlotte Dueña as Jaime Reyes. My God, perfect casting right there. Like I said, I'd always wanted to see a live action Jaime Reyes, but I never knew, what would be a good casting choice for that. But then when I saw this kid in Cobra Kai, which is another one of my favorite shows, I knew it was perfect. And I'm so happy that this fan casting came to fruition, and we have him as our Jaime Reyes because he is just absolutely insanely perfect in this film. Just so good in this role. And the whole Reyes family was great to see. That's probably one of the best parts about this movie because it's a movie that, we have so many superhero movies and TV series that are coming out in our world right now that there's going to be a lot of similarities. And there's a lot of similarities, kind of superhero movie cliches in this film. But one of the things that really makes this film stand out is the representation. Really the heart of this film is the Reyes family and the Latino representation and that culture, because we've never really had a Latino superhero before, at least not one on this scale. So to see something like that and to see the whole family, the culture, their traditions, see what that life is like. I mean, I'm a white guy, so I don't really know a whole lot about it, but I always love learning about new cultures. That was one of my favorite things about the Ms. Marvel Disney Plus series, was getting to learn about that culture. And so getting to see here Blue Beetle, getting to learn a little bit about this culture. I also like the fact that a good chunk of this film is in Spanish, obviously with subtitles, but I think that's really cool because obviously that's a very important part to the Latino community. So I really enjoyed that representation. One other interesting thing about this movie, talking about kind of superhero movie cliches and similarities to other superhero movies, this movie is basically Ant-Man. And I mean that in the best possible way. I love the first Ant-Man movie, but this movie has so many similarities to that first Ant-Man film. And that's not this movie's fault. That's not them being uncreative or anything. That just has to do with the fact that the characters are similar in the comics. I mean, you have a young man who gets fired from his job and then ends up getting this bug superhero suit from a person who was the original superhero, and now this new person has to take on that mantle and ends up falling in love with that original person's daughter, and then also has to fight a villain who is like this evil billionaire, and suits up in a very similar bug suit but evil and a different color. And yeah, that's basically Ant-Man and Blue Beetle all wrapped up into one. It's like the same story, but again, that the family obviously is a core aspect of those Ant-Man movies as well. But I think even more so in this film, because in those movies, like, family is important, and like Scott and his daughter and that whole relationship and everything. But here, actually, like, the whole family is involved in the whole story. There's moments in here. It almost reminded me of Spy Kids, a little bit in a bad way, but for the most part in a good way. In like the third actor, like, you have the family members actually taking part in the battle, having to use Ted Kord's weaponry and his gadgets and stuff. And obviously we saw in the trailer the bug, which of course is Ted Kord's ship, which is awesome seeing that in live action here. So that was really, really cool to see. And going back to the villain is interesting. We have two villains here. We have Victoria Kord, played by Susan Sarandon, and we have Conrad Carapax. Now, Victoria Kord, she's very one note, but she is very incredibly evil. Susan Sarandon, I love her. So I think she was a good character. Again, not a whole lot of like, fluctuation to her character. Is a very static character. Like, she's just pretty much evil, and like, you get a little bit of her motivation and stuff, but you don't really care about her a whole lot. But Carapax was really interesting to me because I was watching the trailers and stuff, and I don't really know a whole lot about the character from the comics, but just watching him in the trailers, I was like, oh, this is just like one of the most basic supervillains ever. He's just evil for the sake of being evil, and he's just gonna be in basically a Blue Beetle suit but red, and it's that's all I thought it was going to be. And for some aspects, that is what it is. But I mean, that final battle between Blue Beetle and Carapax was actually really cool. Almost Carapax's suit almost reminded me of Whiplash from Iron Man 2. Like the end of that movie. Like, there's literally, I'm pretty sure it was in the trailer, where like Carapax literally has like a red Whiplash whip thingy. So very Whiplash, and actually the character as a whole kind of reminds me of Whiplash from Iron Man 2. Which actually, I know a lot of people don't like Iron Man 2, but I actually do enjoy that movie, and I really like Whiplash as a character in that film. And Carapax here actually has really interesting backstory. His motivations, why he's involved here. There's a lot of emotion behind his character, so I really enjoyed that. And it is kind of weird, the placement of how they reveal that backstory, because it's not like until the end, like after Blue Beetle fights him. But when I think about it, I kind of like it, because up until that point, is kind of just like a one-dimensional villain, and so like you don't have any care for him, but it's at the end when you need to care about him, when you need to care about this villain and this character, that's when you get that backstory. And so I think Jaime, I like the way they do it so that both Jaime and us as the audience realize the pain, and kind of the innocence, well, not really innocence, but at least like what this guy went through. We both realized that at the same time. So I did really appreciate that. Now there are two post-credit scenes. The first one is very important, is setting up a sequel. The second one, not so much. It's really just for the joke. And I will agree. There was another review I watched who mentioned that like it's a joke that also you'll probably only get if you grew up in a Mexican family. I it's a reference to a joke earlier in the film, and I thought it was kind of funny then, but the post-credit scene I didn't really fully get it. So you don't have to stay for that if you don't want to. But the first one definitely is very important. It is setting up a sequel, and obviously we know Blue Beetle, Charlotte Dueñas, Jaime Reyes is going to be part of James Gunn's DCU. He has confirmed that multiple times. So this movie is set in the DCU. You get a little bit of world building here. There's some great references, very vague references, but I like that it's just kind of setting the stage that this is a fully developed world. Superman exists, the Flash exists, Batman exists, there's a LexCorp, there's an Ace Chemicals, there's stuff like that. And so hopefully we will get a sequel. Again, the movie's not doing so great at the box office, but personally, I don't think that means a whole lot. If people like this character and if the movie is getting good reception like it is so far, then we will get a sequel. I mean, the Suicide Squad, that did not make a whole lot of money at the box office either, but that got the spinoff with Peacemaker and is going to be continuing in the future. So Blue Beetle was a film I really enjoyed. I love this version of Jaime Reyes. I think director Enya Manuel Soto did an amazing, fantastic job bringing this character to life. And I cannot wait to see what comes in the future from this character, from this franchise, and from all of DC. Because this is something that gets me really excited for not only more Blue Beetle in the future, but really just more DC. Like this new DC universe I'm really hopeful for and I'm really excited about, and Blue Beetle is a great start to it. So anyways guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think about Blue Beetle? Of course, non-spoiler thoughts in the comments below. I will be doing a spoiler review as well, so stay tuned for that. But for now guys, thanks for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video and hit the subscribe button so I keep you up to date on everything that goes on in the DC life.